Pacific Coast, Deuteronomy. We're going to look today at a wonderful passage, a real gem here in the book of Deuteronomy, a book that doesn't get a lot of attention because, well, it seems kind of repetitive. This is the second time Moses goes over the law and the covenant with the people. So we read Deuteronomy and we get a feeling of deja vu, like, haven't I read this before? Chances are you have. But there are things here that are unique to the book of Deuteronomy, or they're explained in a slightly different way, and it's a lot of wonderful truth. So here we're going to look at an aspect of a concept in the law called the Sabbath year. Every week God commanded that we should take a Sabbath day. But interestingly, in the original law of God, in the Old Covenant, he commanded that every 7th year be a Sabbath year. So let's look at this. Deuteronomy chapter 15 and verse 1. At the end of every 7 years, you must cancel debts. This is how it is to be done. Every creditor shall cancel the loan he has made to his fellow Israel. He shall not require payment from his fellow Israelite or brother, because the Lord's time for canceling debts has been proclaimed. You may require payment from a foreigner, but you must cancel any debt your brother owes you. However, there should be no poor among you, for in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess as an inheritance, he will richly bless you, if only you fully obey the Lord your God and are careful to follow all these commands I am giving you today. For the Lord your God will bless you as he has promised, and you will lend to many nations, but borrow from none. You will rule over many nations, but none will rule over you. If there is a poor man among your brothers in any of the towns of the land that the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward your poor brother. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend him whatever he needs. Be careful not to harbor this wicked thought. The 7th year, the year for canceling debts, is near, so that you do not show ill will toward your needy brother and give him nothing. He may then appeal to the Lord against you, and you will be found guilty of sin. Give generously to him, and do so without a grudging heart. Then, because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in everything you put your hand to. There will always be poor people in the land. Therefore, I command you to be open-handed toward your brothers and toward the poor and needy in your land. Open hands, open hearts, open minds and spirits to be in service to our God and Savior. There was an occasion in which a charity went to a highly successful businessman in their community, and they worked up the nerve to ask him for a substantial contribution to an urgent charity appeal. The businessman listened patiently and quietly as they presented their case, and when asked for his reply, he said, quote, "I can understand why you approached me. Yes, I do have a lot of money, and yours is an important cause. But are you aware that I have a lot of calls on my money? Did you know that my mother needs 24-hour nursing care? Well, no, we didn't know that. Did you know that my sister is struggling to raise a family of 8 on her own? No, we didn't know that. Did you know I have one son in a drug rehab clinic and another doing voluntary work overseas? Sorry, we didn't know that. Well, if I don't give them a cent, how do you expect me to give you any? Creepy. If I don't help them, why should I help you? This gentleman missed the boat entirely, didn't he? And now that little anecdote is an illustration of the attitude that God does not want us to have. Here in Deuteronomy, in the 14th chapter, the very end, the last 3 verses, God identified needy persons. He said the Levites who assisted the priests. He said the aliens, that is, not those that come down in UFOs, but the ones who are foreign, fatherless, and widows. And then he goes on in chapter 15 to describe for us what our attitude should be toward them. And here's what we learn, folks. In a sentence, prosperity is given to empower and reward generosity. Now I want us to hear all the parts of that. God gives prosperity to empower and then to reward generosity among his people. We've got 2 things to note here this morning. The first is that God attached a promise of prosperity to the 7-year cycle of debt forgiveness. Let's look at what the text says. This command is part of God's commands for the Sabbath year. And he says pointedly in verse 1, at the end of that year, forgive all debts that are owed to your fellow Israelites. Now the Sabbath year is something of a curiosity in Scripture. It is a command that the land will lie fallow for a whole year. It's a command that slaves would go free in that year. In the 7th of the 7s, the 50th year, was supposed to be a year of jubilee in which you repeated that whole process again. Here, God commanded debt forgiveness at the end of the year. Now, the language, in the original language, is a little uncertain whether the forgiveness of the debt was permanent. That is, at the end of the year, the debt was forgiven in its entirety, or if it was payments were suspended during the course of the 7th year. So the translation comes down on one side, but in the original language, it's not exactly that clear. God gives prosperity, this is clear, in order to empower generosity. Look at verse 4. It says pointedly there that God gives them the land as an inheritance. And this is another reason why Deuteronomy can be difficult to read, is Moses says this about 300 times in the course of the book. He wanted them to know, remember, and celebrate the fact that they were given the promised land as a gift from God to empower them to do the right thing. He gave it to them as an inheritance. Now look at verse 4 closely. It says there that there should be no poor among you. Note the word should. This is a promise. This is an optimistic point of view. Then go down to verse 7, where it says, if there is a poor man among your brothers. And also on to verse 11, where it says, there will always be poor among you, which echoes the words of Jesus in the Gospels, who said exactly the same thing. So it feels like there's a bit of a contradiction here, but let's sort it out. Verse 4 is, as I said, a promise. It is a condition that could have been fulfilled if the people of God had practiced God's command. Now think about that for a minute. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it fascinating to think about that if they had practiced this command as stated, that every 7 years there would at least be 12 months of no payments. You ever hear the ads on TV or on the radio? No payments until 2020. Well, in October, that's not such a big deal. In January, that's a bigger gracious thing. Or, your debt is forgiven. Now imagine how that would work to keep the wealth of Israel from accumulating in the hands of the few, because who loans money? Right? Rich people loan money. Who takes out a loan? People who aren't rich. And you have to prove to the bank that you can pay it back before they'll take a chance on it. So here's an economy where every 7 years indebtedness is wiped out. Think about it. Where is that money going to go? It's going to go into the hands of the poor. It's going to be re-spent and reinvested. It's money that's going to be taken from an inactive place to an active place. And think of how that would stimulate the economy every 7 years. I'm not an economist, but I just think this is a great idea. And I think verse 4 is saying to us, if they had done this, it would have worked. There would have been no poor in the land. But I think verse 7 and 11 are voices of prophecy and also realism. That Moses recognized that they were not going to keep this law. And in fact, historically, biblically, we have no evidence that this 7th year command was ever kept. Verse 5 conveys the condition. If you only fully obey. If you fully obey, there will be no poverty in Israel. If you are careful to follow all these commands, including the Sabbath year laws, there will be no poor among the brothers and sisters of Israel. You see, God blesses complete obedience. God does not bless grudging obedience. God does not bless fake obedience. God does not bless partial obedience. God blesses complete obedience to Him. Now look at verse 6. Promise of prosperity and security. The Lord will bless you as He promised. It's a note of prosperity. It says you will be lenders of money, but you will not borrow any. It's a promise of security. You will rule over many nations, but none of them will rule over you. This is an economic, a military, and political security that came to fruition during the reign of Solomon many years later. Many generations later, Solomon's kingdom extended as far as the kingdom of Israel would ever extend. It enjoyed political security, financial security, but the people did not keep their promises to God. And so in the very next generation, the kingdom was split in half, and its fortunes continued to fail until finally both nations were taken captive by other countries. So we've just seen that God attaches a promise of prosperity to this cycle of forgiveness of debt and also to obedience in general. Let's notice, secondly, that God commanded generosity to the commanded generosity to the poor. First of all, he condemned having a bad attitude toward the poor. Look at verse 7. Being hard-hearted and tight-fisted was forbidden. If I were to offer you a wonderful piece of Jell-O as a treat and you were to hold it in your hand, you can't hold it with a clenched hand and have much Jell-O left over to eat, can you? Kind of a gross image. If you don't like that, try a poached egg. When we clench our fist, we lose more than we keep. And that's exactly the image and the message that God is trying to convey to us about material things. The more we clench, the less we keep. We need to loosen up and give away. Verse 9 condemns wicked thoughts about abusing the law and the poor. Yes, God recognized that this cycle of debt forgiveness could be abused, but he spoke against it and called it a sin. And the person being depicted here and in Scripture consistently, who is miserly, is a lonely figure. Rejected by God and his brothers and sisters, that person stands alone and apart from the people of God. But in Scripture, the happy figure, the social figure, is the generous person. Let's notice also that God commended generosity. He condemned having a bad attitude, but he commended having a good, generous attitude. In both verses 8 and 11, we are commanded to be open-handed in order to meet needs. While caution and wisdom are appropriate in making decisions with our money, we must be aware first of God's grace and generosity to us. Let go of that sense that you've earned it. Let go of that sense that it is even yours. And recognize that it is a gift from God. And then secondly, recognize the need that can be met with the giftedness. And if those two things precede other thoughts and deliberations, we can be sure that we're following God's will. Verse 10, give generously and without a grudging heart. You know, don't tie a string to it. Look back. Don't yank on it. Don't try to hold it fast. Ever given your kids money and held on to it? Well, it's kind of funny, but it's not a nice thing to do. Give without grudging the gift. A generous heart is indicated by thinking of the other person's need higher than your own sense of loss. Friends, what we see here today is plainly taught to us in this teaching. Though we're not required to observe this cycle of debt forgiveness, the teaching and the principle remain the same. The teaching and principle here is that God gives us prosperity in order to empower and reward generosity. In 1964, in his State of the Union address, President Johnson declared war on poverty. His methods of warfare were predictably involved with expanding the role of the federal government. He expanded Social Security. The temporary program of food stamps he made permanent. He established job agencies and educational programs. And now, 55 years later, can we say we're winning the war? See, friends, it's not programs. It's people. It's not being required to be generous. It is desiring a generous heart. And today we're spotlighting the ministry in our community of the banquet and how many wonderful needs are met. Now let me rephrase that. How many needs are met in wonderful ways? Because generous people in our community give their time and support this ministry. We live, I think, in a very generous community. And if we look upon Sioux Falls as having been blessed economically, which of course is the thing that we're constantly hearing, isn't it? Then there has to be a concurrent or even greater amount of generosity going forward. Because God doesn't make us prosperous because we're just so cute and cuddly and deserving. God gives us prosperity in order to empower and reward generosity. God bless you. Amen? We're going to give praise to the Lord, the Almighty. We turn to number 210 as we conclude our service. I'm going to need a couple of members of the advisory board to be at the back to receive offerings. If you would grab a basket or two. And we're going to be supportive today of the ministry of the banquet as our special ministry this month. 210. Would you turn to page 210 in your songbook?